For the past 40 years, their names have been synonymous with victory, bacchanal, librettos, picong, props, and every now and then, some l'argent. Desmond Long and Ignatius Tyson have sparred on stage while setting the stage for the next generation of performers. Their lyrics have elevated the masses, murdered politicians, predicted doom, and a Nobel Prize winner, while still giving us beats to make us all bend down low. The lyrics which they spat 30 years ago are today still household jingles. In this episode, we sit with two of Saint Lucia's most decorated calypsonians as they take us from secondary school renditions all the way up to 21st century partisan-flavored calypsos. Untold Stories presents The Mighty Pep and the Invader, Saint Lucia's Monarchs.
It's been a long time we haven't been to party. So come on baby, go dress up yourself pretty. Every night is only television. Let's go out tonight to release some tension. Tonight we going to party down. Tonight we
Tell me your full name, please.
My full name is Ignatius Alexander Tyson.
Sing me the chorus in your favorite song, one of yours.
Just as I am, I come, this time with no damn presentation. Just as I am, I come, with sweet music and lyrical rendition. That's the one I sing most often.
The one where you came in the cat suit,
Yeah,
just as you were.
just as I am.
Tell me about Genesis. Genesis with you and music.
I went to the Seventh Day Academy and I was able to have a calypso show at the end of term there while I was there. So calypso was really always my calling. You know, I was also known as the neighborhood clown too, the one who would make people laugh. So I suppose being an entertainer was inevitable for me.
From how we drive so recklessly, like human life mean nothing to we. How could Lucia be nice? How could she be a paradise?
In 1983, I decided I wanted to enter the national arena. And that was after, in 1982, I watched the late Get Through on a bus on Brazil Street on Carnival Day, singing What the People Chanting. And I stood on the steps there by ALS Lombard. I don't know if you're familiar with Brazil Street. And I stood on the steps and I watched the bus pass with Get Through on that bus singing What the People Chanting. And I watched the people behind the bus and the way they were into the music. And I decided I wanted to do that too. At that time, there were two rustlers called the Invaders, rustling black and white television at the time. But the Invaders were so good at the craft, and they wore masks, so they had a mystic about them. So I said, well, boy, maybe it might be a good gimmick to wear a mask, because, you know, at least that would give me a breaking chance, because I know if I was to step on that stage directly out of the church, that might be the beginning of the end for me. So I decided to use the mask, and strangely enough, that was the best gimmick I ever, you know, could have thought of, because up to now, the mask is really what have me going, you understand?
Put your hands in the air now. Put your hands in the air. For Saint Lucia musician. You know what I'm doing? Money Fred way.
I've been singing calypso locally for 35 years. And up to yesterday, somebody said to me, that's the first time I see your face. You know what I'm saying? So that is the genesis really of me and the Invader.
1985. So mothers, hold on to your children.
Now that was a year, boy. That was a year because I came out in 83. Now in 83, when I came out, I was the first runner-up and I won the road match right away with a song called Mash Up Yellow Man, which was a fusion actually of Kaiso and dancehall in 83. But by 85, I decided it's time to get serious, so I linked with Max Stephen Overteen, Lord help me.
But when them woman get on so wild, giving man them ready-made child, that is abusing her.
We're good partners. I say, boy, help me, boy. I want to win a crown, man. We came up with two gems, man. Help with Father, which was a social commentary, and Mothers Hold On to Your Children, which was also a social commentary, but with a party flavor. Hold On to Your Children. That is one of the most popular songs I ever sang. I'll tell you why, because whenever I go to the diaspora to perform, that is one of the most requested songs. Now what happened in 1985 also, there was a big exodus. That's the time when a lot of Lucians left and went over to England, to the States and what have you. So they went with the memory of the road match, Hold On to It, which was phenomenal for its time. Eh?
You were also the master of presentation. And for Apartheid and War Games, you had proper presentations.
Another masterpiece again. Yeah, War Games was something else. In all the songs that I've sung, I've always made the initial effort to start writing them. So although I've worked with many writers, I always make a very valid contribution to the composition.
Tell me about regional calypso at the time, who you admired, what performances you looked out for, and who were your biggest competitors early in the business?
Yeah. Okay, regionally, I had quite a bit of experience regionally. We spent quite a bit of time in Dominica. I met up with guys like Scrunter, Hunter, Picky. As a matter of fact, there was a collaboration with a local tent and a tent from Dominica where they used to have exchanges and what have you. My mentor is the Mighty Sparrow. And the late Winston Bailey, the Mighty Shadow. I fused them two guys together. I used the mystic of Shadow and I used the performing skills of the Sparrow. And I combined that to create the Invader. You understand? Sparrow at the time, in my mind, was the greatest performer. I mean, the songs the man used to sing, the way, the double meaning. So I copy a lot of that from the Mighty Sparrow.
Will you still love me in good times and bad? Will you still love me when hitting a note gets hard?
I migrated to the United States in '87 with one ambition, and it was to do a recording. I wanted to do a professional recording, and I had to make that sacrifice. I live in New York. I used to sleep underneath a stage in a disco for about 6 months, just to make this sacrifice to be in New York, to be around the right set of people. And it worked for me because in '88, I got to meet a guy called Kenrick Georges, who arranged a song I wrote called Walk and Wine.
When I knew you, girl, you couldn't even talk, no. Is I hold your hand and teach you to walk now. But since you come down from New York, baby, you have all them young boy going crazy. I remember you were so shy, mama, yeah. If a man did call you, you would have cried now. Teasing never seemed like your style. But now New York have you wild. When you walk and whine. Walk and whine. And whine.
Walk and Wine was #1 in New York for 12 weeks. at the time I was so naive and thing, I literally gave the song away. So I wasn't really able to reap the real financial benefits of a hit like Walk on Wine. But what happened with Walk on Wine is that it exposed me to the international market. So whereas I didn't make money from the recording itself, but the performances. I mean, up to a day like today, I still tour every year. I came back in 91. I think Ashanti won the crown that year. I didn't take part in the competition. The following year, in 92, I took part in the competition and I won the road. I won the road match in 92 with Jane Salah.
If I'm your woman, why don't you hold my hand? Show me some affection. Give me some satisfaction. Non mais désolé. Nam la pas blessé. Excité à l'autre femme. They jump. Ouais quand tu dis, ouais allez, ouais va te ya comme maman. Jane Salah. Ouais quand tu dis, ouais quand allez, non moi pas mêler maman.
Life is a series of triumphs and trials. The circle of life has all the usual certainties and, of course, the unpredictable. Just one can affect you and your loved ones. Sadly, many fail to prepare for the unforeseen. Thankfully, we've been here for over 138 years, helping you plan and recover. We offer peace of mind at that critical moment. GTM Insurance. Sound, solid, and reliable. Call us today at 458-6300 or log on to gtminsurance.net.
70% of all health decisions are influenced by lab results. Delivery of accurate, reliable, and timely results has been our mandate for over 20 years. We are Laboratory Services and Consultations Limited, generating hundreds of lab tests each year while delivering quality, personalized, confidential service, one client at a time. With a reliable network of regional and international partners, all tests are conducted with patient care in mind. Laboratory Services and Consultations Limited, saving lives and caring for people. We focus on results so you can focus on what's important. Telephone 459-2200.
The digital D app would be a great opportunity for exposure for musicians, artists, producers, songwriters, and film producers as well.
As long as everybody has access to this and the music is on here, streaming that, people can now have connection with these artists.
Not bad in English, not bad in Spanish, but you bad in bum bum.
The Lucelec service standard is to record and resolve all reported faults within 24 hours, with the exception of defective streetlights. Faults are also classified by priority, with hazards such as downed power lines at the top of the list. To report a fault to Lucelec, call 452-2165 in the north or 454-6617 in the south. Faults can also be reported on the Lucelec Facebook page at The Power of Caring and on Twitter at Power of Caring.
Get up now, it is time to party. Put all worries aside now, forget everybody. Just get up and find a partner. Come let we rock with Papa Vida. Now move left and right. Hold your partner real tight. Don't she around. Let she touch the ground. Come along, let's bend. And let me bend down low. Bend.
And in '93, I came back and I won the Monarch with a what you call a one-nighter. You know, a song that you just pull out. I mean, '93, Robbie was the man, in 1993. The crowd was rooting for Robbie.
What did Robbie sing that time? Dead Heroes Society?
Dead Heroes Society and I think Castles in the Sky or some, yeah.
Dead Heroes Society was an awesome song, man.
Monster, man. A monster of a song. I mean, like I tell you, Robbie was the man for 1993. Up to the night of finals. I mean, the whole pack came to the park to support Robbie. But then, that one nighter, the King Tonight, I pulled that out of the bag.
Vader, you have to give us this story. Tell us, first of all, where the idea came from, and more importantly, tell us where the idea came from for the presentation, and whose piece of spandex you put on, boy?
Yeah, well, checking the competition, I say, boy, 93 there, I say, boy, what could I do, you know, that would be different, because you can't go in a competition knowing you lose already. And that was the situation, because like I tell you, Robbie, yeah. So I said, boy, I started thinking. Then the first phrase that came was, I have to be king tonight. I have to be king tonight. But I said then, let's include the judges in that now. If you had to be king, the judges have to play a part in that. So I said the best way that I could touch the judge's heart is to tell them that if they use the criteria
and do their job right,
do the job right, I shouldn't have no problem. I have to be king tonight. And I mean, the composition of the song, it was basically a personal composition. The song was basically about Papa Vader. A hook line, Papa Vader. That hook nice because, like I tell you, the crowd came there for Robbie tonight, you know. Yeah. And I blow the pack away. Blow it away that night. Yeah. When I come backstage, I went to jam Robbie. Robbie get away me, you know, because he realized things ain't gonna work out the way they had planned. Yeah. King tonight.
Number one, in your land, those in charge, it's time that you realize this small island calypsonian must be recognized. So if the judges do their jobs right, I have to be king tonight. Cause who's the man will prove Kaiso belong to the Caribbean? Pampa Vader, Pampa Vader. Who's the man will bring...
One of my best experiences working with anybody on a road match was with Jati when we did in '99 when we did L'Argent. Yeah, Jati was the one who wrote the song initially, but the hook lines, the L'Argent, L'Argent, which was really the song. Because although the name of the song is Take My Money, people refer to the song as L'Argent. You understand? And it was really a good experience. As a matter of fact, having worked with Jati, it gave me a broader, perspective of writing, and I tried to apply some. Belelesh was like an offshoot from L'Argent,
So all them country I calypsonians run into radio station. Bear. It's my mama, you should hear Pele. The things that they say, but there.
You are the recipient of the Saint Lucia Medal of Merit. In fact, you have a whole song giving picon to the haters.
Yeah.
So first take me to when you found out that you were going to be awarded that medal.
I wasn't really that excited about it at first because I didn't really know what it was. And now that I know what it is, I still ain't all that excited. The disappointing part about receiving that medal was the reaction of a lot of individuals, who feed that boy. Fellas used to tell me you get the SLPM boy. You understand? It's SLMM, Saint Lucia Medal of Merit. But because my party was in power at the time, they said I get the SLPM. In my mind, I'm the most decorated calypsonian in Saint Lucia. I win 4 Kaiso Monarch, 7 Road March, King of Kings. I win 2 Soca Monarch. I'm the reigning bi-local Monarch. I win 2 Extempo Monarch. I'm the reigning Creole Monarch. After all, what I had to prove again.
But Vader, some would say that your pen is usually flavored with red ink. You sing for your party when you get on stage. And Calypso should be commentary, not a campaign. A lot of your songs have been political.
Oh yeah, I am a political commentator. I will get away from that.
You are not a political commentator in as much as a political commentator does it for both sides and gives picon to both sides.
No, but I do it for both sides.
Vader.
L'Argent was given.
Vader, come on.
No, I ain't trying to get away from that.
Okay.
I read like blood. You understand? I ain't trying to get away from that. And I believe in the ideologies of the Labour Party, straight. You understand? So, in my mind, I had to give pressure to the other party, whether they're in power, whether they're in opposition. You understand? But my challenge is that, in all my commentaries, prove me wrong, prove me wrong about what I've said.
Who only care about themselves and damn this country. Strategic commerce, prison lawlessness. Foreigners buy land I should occupy. The reason you see, I'm sure you'll agree. Why? I'm going country.
You understand?
You've delivered picon to a lot of other calypsonians over the years.
And I get a lot too,
And then they turn around and they start to poke you.
Oh yeah, I get a lot.
Spice poke you, Pep poke you. You poke Pep badly. Don't call me darling.
you remember that song? Don't call me darling.
Don't call me darling.
Yeah.
So tell me the thought process behind putting some of these things together, and also when you hear them giving you a little bit of licks, how it feels.
Well, it comes with the territory. You don't expect to be a calypsonian and don't expect to get picon. Come on. That is the essence of calypso.
You sang a whole song about a guy, poor jab, and now the guy can't go anywhere. And at Christmas time, it's as popular as Jingle Bells.
Boy, I don't know what song you're talking about.
Oh, now you don't know what song.
Because the
Dash
song
it through
people,
the slow?
I know the song you're referring to, but you started by saying, I wrote a song about a guy. But if you check the song itself, the song says, girl, I really had to call me, first person. I sing the song about nobody. This is the first person.
I have to shake your hand, my boss. That is what makes you the master.
Yeah. So I sing no song about nobody. The song is about myself or anybody who faced with the predicament of getting the visa revoked. It's a situation, you know. Yeah, sorry.
Invader, you have also had a couple horrendous incidents on stage. You have, over the years, you had developed an appetite for your own words. You've swallowed quite a few.
Well, boy, I like the way you put it, over the years, because I've been doing this for a long time. I mean, although I may look it, but I know spring chicken, yeah, that's how I say it. So backstage, there's be real tense during the competition. And sometimes, you know, I go swallow a few lines. It has happened to the best.
Tell me your 3 biggest competitors in the Calypso arena.
The fellas who pose the biggest problems on a finals night would, of course, have to be the Mighty Pep and his gang, because, you know, he have his gang.
So many awful things being said. The talk around the Caribbean, everybody saying I dead.
Pep, Ashanti used to be, you know, a threat. In more recent times, Minel is a powerhouse. I mean, when Minel have a good song, forget it. Nintas is a guy who you can never underestimate when it comes to a performance night on a finals. You know?
My final question to you is, what does the future hold for Ignatius Alexander Tyson?
All I want the future to hold for me is simple. I ain't looking for too much at this stage, because what I ain't have yet, I doubt I go have it again. So I just want to just flow, you know, move with the flow. I want to be respected for what I do. Don't tell me I'm too old. Don't tell me that. You know, fellas tell me, boy, Vida, boy, you should, I think, you know, it's time me to retire. I say, retire from what? I say, I have no plans of retiring. Like I say, as far as I'm concerned, I'm still very much in demand. I just want to keep doing what I love doing to the best of my ability and to be appreciated for it.
I want you to repeat after me. I know I can be what I want to be. Put my mind to it. I'll be what I want to be. I know I can be what I want to be. Put my mind to it. I'll be what I want to be. Come, hey!
Hey, stop it.
That's what I'm here for.
For over 138 years, we've had your back. From home contents to medical, auto to business continuity. GTM Insurance. Sound, solid, and reliable.
Create music. Don't stop creating music.
and come to us to help you get that music in front of every single person that needs to hear your music. It's here, it's available today.
Lucelec will terminate any account on its system that remains disconnected for 90 consecutive days. In such cases, the meter and service line will be withdrawn. Similarly, Lucelec will repossess any meter or service line on vacant or abandoned properties. These measures are to ensure safety and to reduce electricity theft. To reinstate the electricity service, the final bill at the time of the meter withdrawal must be paid, and an application for a new connection made to Lucelec. This means the property must be re-inspected and recertified by the Electrical Department of the Ministry of Infrastructure before service can be provided. Call Lucelec for additional information.
If you had to think of your favorite song of all times and just give me the chorus, what would it be?
Calypso, darling, calypso, calypso, show some understanding.
Calypso, calypso, I don't want to leave you. Calypso, calypso, but I have to leave you. The time has come, I must move on. A mission calls to me that I must attend to. But when I'm gone, I'll be listening on.
And if you ever fall, I'll be back to defend you.
1978, you were at St. Mary's College, you're in Form 4, correct?
That's right.
Tell me about Calypso that year.
Myself, Dove, Crispin Dove, Adley, and Lubin, I forgot his first name. At that time, we were all musicians at St. Mary's College, and we decided to, to get the St. Mary's College extravaganza going again. At that time I played the guitar, Crispin was a keyboardist, Lubin on the bass, and Adley on the drums. And we just decided, well, let us get something going. I sang on that day after 8 too late, because we had the principal at that time was Father Joachim Stark, and that was his thing.
He wasn't playing, boy.
He wasn't playing. He used to be on the step waiting to see any bus that came in after 8, and he would round up all the boys, and either you get cane or you get suspension, and that was his motto: after 8 too late. So I wrote a song on that, and at the end of the day, I emerged victorious.
First time around, first time king.
First time king.
3 big calypsonians held me down. It was Bachelor, Lady Spice, and Brown, all 3 who could not defend the calypso crown. They want to open my mouth and force me to tell my strategy to defend the monarchy. So I told the 3 of them, come and watch me. Tonight in the park, as I get no slack, I give my opponents flag.
Well, the principal at that time was Mr. Nicholas Frederick. And there was always this joke among the boys that he had this sort of smile. He could be mean at you, he will be smiling. I mean, whether he's serious or jovial, but he's hardly ever jovial. He's always been a very strict person. But he always had that sort of vicious smile, as we call it. So, so I decided to write a song about that, I think it was calling Fredo, because that's how he used to, call when he called on the mics at the school. He said, Fredo, don't smile for me. I'm tired of seeing your face. I wrote that song. It brought fun. It was, we were poking fun at the principal. A lot of people, a lot of students. That was a little chance to get at him, So it went down very well with the students at the time, and I emerged victorious.
They start spreading lies, we'll cocoa they criticize. They say that it have cholesterol, and so the industry dies. Real cocoa is not coming back. Around the world is a fact. Real cocoa is now the latest craze. We're giving the product endless praise. Now we go back to where we were, leading in the show. Real cocoa.
I never really wanted to get into the local calypso at that time because of, I mean, the state that it was at the time. It was a big thing among a certain, what I call a certain sector of society, you know. And when I used to go and watch a lot of the shows and, you know, watching fellas get heckled on stage and this kind of thing, that was not the sort of vibe that I really wanted to get myself into. At that time, well, of course, Invader is the man you had to beat. Invader had made a name for himself, and he had a gathering at that time, a following that were, I mean, that would die hard. When we talk die hard Vader, you couldn't say anything about Invader at that time, you know. And I decided to just get my little humble self. I gone in, I wrote a song, Pumping AIDS. I also penned a regional song, Political Squabble. And of course, I mean, I was nervous at the time, you know. I went in, I got a decent response, but people, what happened that people liked, they loved the freshness. Because when Invader came out, it was just a fresh person on the scene. His music was different from what was there before. It was just a breath of fresh air in the calypso. So I came in with my own style now, which in a sense, I wouldn't say it was hardcore calypso. It was a lot of pop in there, you know. And when I sang those two songs, fellas tell me, "Oh, I ain't beating Invader. You can't beat me." I got a lot of pressure that year, and of course he was the master of stage presentation at the time. You know, he was Invader. You couldn't go there and compete with Invader and not have something masterful on stage in terms of your presentation. But we fell short on the presentation that year because of the nature of the topics that we had, and of course, Invader was himself on that night of the finals, and he got through with the crown, and I came first runner-up.
Yankee from a coalition and they massacre Iraq.
Coalition coming. Coalition coming.
1987. You sit in the staff room and yourself and Sion decide to merge heads. From that merging came an abortion.
I'll never forget the night I first sang it. It was I think it was at Gatie's Cinema. I came on stage, quarterfinals. Invader sang before me. And then I came on a couple artists after. When I sang the song, the entire Gatie's theater was quiet. You could have heard a pin drop. Everybody was just glued to me singing the song. And at the end, I mean, I got like a standing ovation. We couldn't get encores at that time. It was almost like a standing ovation. And I was walking off stage, and I saw one of Invader Cabs, one of his writers, I think it was, he had about 4 of them standing up there, Striker and his other party.
Yeah, Cabs used to write for him.
Cabs, right. They were just off stage on the right-hand side before the toilets there. And I walk off stage, and one of Invader's partner did him, "Boss man, you lose this year."
Finals, and you're at Mindo Philip.
Mindo Philip, right.
You are the famous diaper. I was a kid, I remember that show. I remember watching that on television. You come out, take me back to that show.
%70 of all health decisions are influenced by lab results. Delivery of accurate, reliable, and timely results has been our mandate for over 20 years. We are Laboratory Services and Consultations Limited, generating hundreds of lab tests each year while delivering quality, personalized, confidential service, one client at a time. With a reliable network of regional and international partners, all tests are conducted with patient care in mind. Laboratory Services and Consultations Limited, saving lives and caring for people. We focus on results so you can focus on what's important. Telephone 459-2200.
Lucelec will terminate any account on its system that remains disconnected for 90 consecutive days. In such cases, the meter and service line will be withdrawn. Similarly, Lucelec will repossess any meter or service line on vacant or abandoned properties. These measures are to ensure safety and to reduce electricity theft. To reinstate the electricity service, the final bill at the time of the meter withdrawal must be paid, and an application for a new connection made to Lucelec. This means the property must be re-inspected and recertified by the Electrical Department of the Ministry of Infrastructure before service can be provided. Call Lucelec for additional information.
For over 40 years, we've been a part of the financial landscape. From fishers to farmers, funding home improvements, construction, education, and of course, securing that little piece of paradise. We are committed to funding sustainable livelihoods in agriculture, financing your next set of wheels, and debt consolidation, all guided by in-house financial counseling. Why? Because to others, you are risk. To us, you are family. The Library Cooperative Credit Union. We're not a bank, we're better.
Drinking champagne, whiskey and all. But by 8 o'clock Monday morning, they leave the bottles all on the wall. And in the night of the morning, there were 11 bottles in all. But without any kind of warning, the biggest bottle fell down from the wall. 11 yellow bottles was standing on the wall. 11 yellow bottles.
You're struggling to figure out how we're going to present the song. So, after debating, I think we decided, Pep, you'll have to come out of a womb. I said, but how are we going to do that on stage? How are we going to come out of a womb? Yeah, man, we have to build a womb. We have to build. That was it. And from that time, that was the consensus, and we got Giovanni Santoma. We came on stage, the song began, and they wheeled out the womb. The crowd just began screaming. I mean, they began screaming, and from then on, everybody considered, well, that's my king. And it went, well, I mean, as anything else, it was my first Monarch, and that, at that time, created that pep Invader. And that sort of competition that started at that time between the two of us.
I'm a true son. My heart is filled with national pride. But believe me, how it grieves me when I see us push our culture aside.
And when we went on stage, And Ford began his little antics with that violin. But I'd never seen a crowd, I mean, get so carried away.
So much so that on the night of finals, he was carried, he fell, and his arm broke.
He broke his... yeah, in his, I mean, after the song played, I mean, he was so, I mean, I don't know. There's something about it. He loved that song so much. I mean, he always told us that, but that song used to give him so much joy to play. And poor fella, right after singing, right after playing, man, whilst we were just making our exit, because whilst we were making our exit off stage, he had to continue playing with us and go. And poor fella just walked off the stage without even realizing. He walked straight, I mean, just dropped down from the stage, and broke
his arm.
Broke his arm. And there were a number of persons from all the way up from the Caribbean, from Suriname down, Guyana, Suriname, all the way up to Antigua, St. Kitts. There were a number of calypsonians and some who have had, who have had an outstanding career and so forth. And we went to Skinner's Park. I was the only non-Trinidadian who qualified. It was just 9 of us, so it's 8 calypsonians and the Mighty Pep. But funny enough, when we sang that week of before the finals, we went, we did a couple shows, in Trinidad, and people were making the comment that, well, Unborn Child is not really a calypso as far as they're concerned in terms of the type of music and so forth. When we got on stage and we did the Unborn Child with its presentation, they actually got the gist of the song. It went down very well. Very well, and there was a contingent of Saint Lucians in the crowd, back in Mighty Pep. And I was very elated at the response we got. When I came back in for the second round now, I sang Rags to Riches. And that's what the Trinidadians like. The beat. And not only that, I was able to put in some lyrics pertaining to Trinidad. It was no longer, when I used the Syrians and this sort of thing. I spoke of persons on Frederick Street and Charlotte. So I put in some of these characters in the song, and it really, the Trinidadians got to it. They got to it. And so at the end of the day, when the results came, people were not, they were not surprised.
Can you tell us, Cinderella, no longer a fairy tale, flesh and blood on a human scale. Cinderella, mystery fellas, in a sudden dramatic climb, rags to riches in record time. But between me and you, we all jealous still we blue, cause if we were in their shoes, it's the same thing we would do. Oh yes, we play in lottery, we play in fools, we all trying hard to be Cinderella's too.
The following year, you had to leave. How is it that your final song before you go off to study is your winning song? Take me back to preparing for that show. The emotion, you and Sion coming together to write a song that essentially is a farewell, giving the endless meepy to everybody else.
Yeah.
Tell me about that night.
Well, the thing is, I had already gone to study in September of '92, and I wasn't sure whether I was going to come back because it was my first year in medicine, and I wasn't sure that I would have gotten the time to come back during Carnival because Carnival was still in February at that time, and I wasn't sure what my schedule would have been like, and not only that, but if you can remember my 1992 victory with Calypso Farewell, that's the famous year when bottles were pelted on stage because it was Ashanti's third year. Well, he had won 90, 91, and everybody wanted him to win a three-peat in 92. So when I won with Rags to Riches that year, it was rained with bottles. So it was in my mind, well, that's the kind of attitude towards people, and I was now asking myself whether I should basically come back, to sing. I said, when I'm going to do medicine, I think I'll have to take a break from the Calypso scene. And I was in Trinidad and studying, and I got a message from Sion telling me that I have to come back.
That year, Sion's pen was at work, and your musical notes accompanied Aliens. I feel like an alien in my own land, in this land that I love.
That's right.
You have to go, but you won the show. Tell me the confusion that's happening with you.
Well, I think at that time, I was adamant that I was leaving. And then again, Sion calls me and tells me, Gasso, you cannot, Gasso, you're the king. The people expect you to defend. That's the excuse, you know. You're the king. You can't just go by and say, but what happened, I can't leave on a high, you know, this kind of thing. And he said, nah, man, at that time, the calypso was so intense between myself, Invader, and Ashanti, that as if a pep out of the scene would have taken away from it. So he kept telling me, nah, you have to come. I tell him, nah, I mean, I study now in the middle of my program. It's difficult to come back, you know. And then he said, well, what if we just decide to do a thing, do the will? Well, you go and you've left, but you want to leave something. You leave in a will for your son. You know that that the other calypsonians can't step in your shoe. You give it. Again, he came up with the idea, and I said, well, I mean that's a smart thing. It was a way of getting me back to come and perform, and it was a good song. And I said, I mean, it is a song that had a gimmick in it, you know. So and honestly, I wasn't too sure that I would have won that year. I wasn't too sure that I would have won, but then it was a song that was worth coming back to defend with. From the time they heard that I live in a will, and then the next thing they realized the will was my little boy, because they were wondering who everybody said, maybe Tricky, maybe, you know, something like that. And then when they realized it was my 7-year-old son at the time, I brought out on stage towards the end of the song. That was the last verse to say who I was living my will to, you know. And I mean, that knocked out the crowd.
Your only begotten.
My only begotten son.
Yes.
Yeah.
Minel, Invader, and Ashanti, the thorns for you every year. Tell me about your relationship with them.
I don't care about who fucking, I don't care about who's sucking, whose mother in the garden planting corn, whose backside does shake like shack and drum. It's high time we realize we don't have to paralyze the young generation. Yes, the future leaders of this nation.
Well, I mean, I've had a wonderful relationship with all three. I mean, even in the times way back when people, you know, the pep Invader clashes in the past.
Now hear that? As I sat on the chair at the doctor's office,
there was some sort of feeling among people that we were like adversaries, you know, enemies, but it was not so. I mean, Invader, I mean, we talk, I mean, when we meet, we go to shows, we you know, I mean, we're not lineman partners as such, but of course, I've never had anything, I mean.
But it was always said that you were singing for the bourgeois and he was singing for the Mali.
Well, that is what, at that time, remember I said, when I came in, it was considered that he had his following. And when I got into the arena, it brought out a different crowd to these shows. People that you would not have seen come into tent, people you know, who wouldn't go to these finals, started coming out. So there was a pep faction, which they say is bourgeois faction. I don't know what what they meant, but that is how they categorize it. An Invader now singing for his, you know, and then Ashanti came in, and Ashanti was the Malawi king.
Bring the prices down. It's just a little bullshit, we begging please. You want a little something to ease the squeeze, like you want to see the poor man beg on his. Show some compassion to the poor man.
So you have three sets of, you have three calypsonians, each, you know, appealing to a different section of the society. And I think that was what made Calypso at that time what a must-go-to show.
Over the years, what has been your favorite song, your favorite performance in any of these finals?
My favorite would be Calypso Farewell. And like it touched me personally because it really looked at pep in Calypso, and some of the lyrics in it I mean, it was actually my journey through the calypso until that time. But I think what touched me most was when I went to sing that song on the night of finals. I could have said nothing on stage, and the song would have been sung, because almost the entire crowd was singing the song. I stood on stage and heard people singing word for word, all 4 verses, and I'd never gotten a response from a crowd at that time. And that touched me, I mean, I almost broke down in tears when I was leaving the stage.
As I go, my sweet calypso, who will win your heart tomorrow is bringing tears to my eyes. Sweet calypso, some may forcefully invade you, some may trick you to persuade you, or even ask the Lord for advice.
Looking back at your pattern, even when you have been political, you give a picong to the government of the day, it always appeared, though, that your pen was always peppered with red pepper. True? Untrue?
Well, at times.
Last year you outdid yourself. You really went all teeth on everybody. What was that all about?
The good thing about the song is that the character in the song was a character that people don't mind you taking a punch at. And that was on both sides of the aisle, whether flower or labor. Because when we started testing the song around, you were hearing from both sides. They don't mind, yes, you can say anything about meat, but don't touch the other fellas, But meat, you can sing about meat.
Well, this Stephen thing is outrageous. And the dentists say it is highly, highly contagious.
After 30 years of singing calypso, when are you going to produce an album? I guess you had a question a lot.
I hear that all the time. Personally, I think I owe it to the Saint Lucian public, because there's not so many of Pep recorded songs. The songs that are recorded from the 10s and maybe the finals, and some of the recordings that I did myself, but they were not really professionally done. So I'm looking to get something properly done, and hopefully this year would be the year that I'll put it out.
Where do you go from here? 8 wins, 1 million first places, and now an accumulation of gray hair. Where do you go from here?
No, well, actually, it's a tough thing to say, especially when fans are listening. But I really looking at my way out. I mean, I'm looking. Basically, after I won the 8th crown, it was my intention to just leave it at that and just stop on a high. But what really gets you back in is that anytime the calypso season is approaching, I mean, you are just mobbed with a set of people who want to know that you're taking part this year. They want, the fans just keep at you, and they don't want to hear that you're not coming out this year, you're not coming out next. They don't want to hear that. But more so, I want to make space for others who are coming up in the art form. I want to start writing, collaborating with other artists to see if I could, get them on par in a sense. But I think the time is coming where I have to actually bow out and allow. I don't want to be like 60, 70 and things. At that time, I supposed to be just singing if a guest appearance. You want to hear a little pep now, a little thing. I have a little idea, a little picong, a little something. I throw it out, entertain the crowd, and leave it at that. But in terms of the competition, I think I've done enough, and it's time, in a sense, to give way for younger folks coming up.
One love, people, one love. Our steps are on the signs of time. Let's reflect on our journey together. This land is yours, this land is mine. With some care we'll have it forever. 10 years have gone, 10 years have come since we've claimed our solution.
Who'll go on and on, the fool has never been told. Who'll go on and on, the fool has never been told. Who'll go on and on, the fool has never been told. The fool has never been